Don in London, hello. May 12th, yes, just checking, May 12th. Good morning to you. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour equally addictive around people, places and things. Trying to be in the right place, with the right things and with the right people. And what made that possible? That adoption of the idea that I had to be perfect in order that you would like me, love me, want me, ask me to be included. So I tried very hard to fit in. All the time, not quite sure how to, except by trying harder and harder, following the trend, following the people, and making it all possible by putting something in between me and reality, and that was a drink. And I didn't know I was doing it for a long time. I always thought that drink was there for all occasions, be they happy or sad, and that it just took the edge off, made me relax, chill out, and be okay with life, until I started to become dependent upon it, and then addicted to it. And I don't know when I crossed the line, when it comes to drink being the focus of all activities. It'd be hard to judge, because drink was just a feature of life. But I do know when it was 24/7 and I couldn't stop, and that was in the last decade or so. And now I don't drink one day at a time. So the journey to addiction was progressive and horrible, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. But in the end it got me, and it took away everything. In the material sense, in my ability to cope with reality, I couldn't. And these days I can, because I don't drink anymore, one day at a time. So what made it possible? Well, family, friends, medical people, and me ultimately saying I cannot do this anymore and I need to stop. I just don't know how to. And when I got that moment of clarity, I didn't know how to, and life had got as bad as it could get. I asked for help, and even then it was a struggle to let go of something which had helped me cope with what I thought life was all about, turning up and trying to be whatever I thought society, community and family wanted, rather than asking myself, what do I want, what do I need on a daily basis? And then I realised, if my needs are met, I stop wanting. Anyway, that's a bit further along in the story, and I'm glad to say that I have been sober for a few years now. And the Fellowship of AA has featured centrally in me being sober so the rest of life can work. And not only that, Fellowship has afforded me the absolute joy of finding friendship. Friendship where people actually learn and know how to love each other, unconditional love. That's what it is. And get on with life, as it may be, real life on life's terms, which means it's not all happy and joyful. It's full of every type of experience open to a human being, and still not needing to drink, not needing to be propped up in any shape or form, other than, I guess, the love and fellowship of others. So I feel good this morning. I feel quite tired. Don't know what's going on with me. I have type 1 diabetes, a luxury of recovery, and also clinical depression, another luxury of recovery. And I say they're luxuries because I have them because I'm still here. So I was very lucky in the first few years of recovery. Nothing went wrong physically, and then one or two other things started to happen, and I got late onset type 1 diabetes. And I say it's a luxury of recovery because I'm alive to get it. Weird. So I'm not frightened of life so much, or frightened of death either. I don't fear it. I don't have to fear anything on a daily basis, although there will be fearful things which come up, which I'm not used to, or some things just happen in life. Anyway, so how does Fellowship help me? That's the focus of my videos, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for AA, never can, never will. Full of unique, authentic people who speak where they choose about their recovery, and most often it's in meetings of the Fellowship, simply because anonymity affords sanctuary to find the truth of who we are. So it's almost like going to a confidential client service of some sort. The anonymity affords sanctuary to find the truth of who we are, so we can be ourselves in all walks of life. So how does fellowship work? Well, I share the AA preamble and then some of the readings which are there from the literature, and I can only see what you see is what you get in meetings. That's where the real action around recovery is. Action, and not just thinking about it. So the AA preamble reads as this: Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So primary purpose about sobriety: we'll meet people from all walks of life within the fellowship, all unique and authentic, all with their own personal opinions and beliefs, and yet we all seek truth, love and wisdom. So human beings have every attribute of connection to everything and their preferences. That's the same in AA, but we focus on a desire to stop drinking and keeping sober and keeping the message strong through what we do with those around us. And that's how it works. It works by action. So whilst AA has no affiliation, you'll find that people within the fellowship have every affiliation you can possibly imagine, and yet we are unique and authentic in our outlook. So it's not a cult, it can't save you. It's all about action in your life which makes it work, and that's what I learned. I can't study it and then be good at it. It's about putting it into practice, from theory to practice, practice and action. But the books help me on a daily basis, and I'll be sharing the daily reading from this book, Daily Reflections, an AA literature book for May 12th. But before that, I just wanted to cover the summary of the 12 steps and 12 traditions which is in this book. And often summaries are either at the beginning or near the end. And it's step 12, which is about sharing a message, is a very long chapter comparatively in the AA books. But within it, in step 12, it gives a summary of the 12 steps. And I like to read it out quite often because it puts everything into context for me. So, on page 110, it starts halfway down. AA's manner of making ready to receive this gift lies in the practice of the 12 steps in our program. So let's consider briefly what we have been trying to do up until this point. Step 1 showed us an amazing paradox. We find that we were totally unable to be rid of the alcohol obsession until we first admitted that we were powerless over it. So admitting we were powerless over alcohol and life had become unmanageable when drinking, through to I'm still powerless over alcohol if I take a drink, and life will certainly get unmanageable if I do drink. In step 2 we saw that since we could not restore ourselves to sanity, that is, we couldn't stop drinking, it was madness, some higher power must necessarily do so if we were to survive. And for me, I've learned that there are many higher powers in my life, and there is probably an ultimate higher power which created the universe, but that's beyond my definition. But in terms of higher power, I look at the absolute truth of life, unconditional love to and from people, and wisdom which I get from other people. So truth, love and wisdom are my higher power. And you know, there's a big difference between truth and what I believe, because what I believe is based on what I know so far, not the actual truth of everything. Yes, consequently in step 3 we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him, and turning it over to God means that I'm not God. I don't know all the answers, I don't know all the truth, I'm learning about love and I'm learning wisdom. So for me, God works as truth, love and wisdom in my life, and that's just my understanding. And no matter what your belief system is, because I am atheist, agnostic and God believer, depending on my life experiences, the higher power does work. If I let go and let God, or let go and let good things happen, let the wisdom in to help me, and put in the action, then life starts to change. For the time being, we who are atheist or agnostic discovered that our own group of AA or AA as a whole would suffice as a higher power. And it doesn't have to get any more than that. It's the truth, love and wisdom we find in the meetings of AA which can help us. Beginning with step 4, we commenced to search out the things in ourselves which have brought us physical, moral and spiritual bankruptcy. In other words, I had no physical defence. I had no real sense of morality because everything had gone to pot. And spiritual bankruptcy for me meant I couldn't live reality anymore, because for me spiritual is the connection to reality, living in the moment. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory in step 4. Taken alone wouldn't be enough. We knew we had to quit the deadly business of living alone with our conflicts. And that's our history of, oh no, here we go again. It's the old voice of the past which says it's all going to be like this. So prejudging and having expectations which are not necessarily true now we're sober. Yes, we knew we had to quit the deadly business of living alone with our conflicts, and in honesty confide these to God and another human being. In other words, to share our inventory of who we are, our life story, in order to sort out where the anger, the resentments, the negative side of us came out. But not to lose sight of the positive sides as well, because any inventory needs to have a balance of both. At step 6, many of us balked for the practical reason that we did not wish to have all our defects of character removed, because we still loved some of them too much. So some of the old behaviour around fear, putting on a brave face, or trying to get away with things, or being superficial or indifferent to people, treating people as commodities rather than actual human beings. These are the sorts of things that, if we get out of balance, happen. Because then we can treat ourselves superficially and with indifference and relapse back into old behaviour, and worse still, drinking. So we decided that while we still had some flaws of character that we could not yet relinquish, we ought nevertheless to quit our stubborn, rebellious hanging on to them. We said to ourselves, this I cannot do today, perhaps I can stop crying out no never, and that's most important. And then in step 7, we humbly ask God, truth, love and wisdom, for me, or good conscience, to remove our shortcomings, such as he could or would under the conditions of the day we asked. And that's it, it's a daily program we're in. So we don't ever stop doing the steps. The steps work practically in life. We live them without actually thinking about them after a while, simply because it's a good way to live life sober and then let life happen and be a part of. We don't have to control everything, and that's part of acceptance too, that we are players in a big stage. It's called the world. Yes, and it's got to be on the day asked, because if we don't actually look to our how am I feeling today, why, and what can I do, let go of the old behaviour and start new behaviour, what's going to make the difference today? Certainly not doing the same old thing which got me into trouble. Then in step 8 we continued our house cleaning, for we saw that we were not only in conflict with ourselves, but also with people and situations in the world in which we lived. And step 8 is making a list of people we have harmed. That normally comes out of our personal life story, and then being willing to make amends. So it's making a list and being willing. That's step 8. It's not actually doing the amends, that's in step 9. Yes. We had to begin to make our peace, and so we listed the people we had harmed and became willing to set things right. We followed this up in step 9 by making direct amends to those concerned, except when it would injure them or other people. So we can't just go around saying, I'm coming to give you my apology about my behaviour and what I did to you, if I can't go around and do that if it's going to cause further harm or drag up history which is unhelpful to them. And this is where step 9 is most important. We need a bit of wisdom from others to give us a bit of a hand to make sure we're not going out there with a self-serving purpose of saying, I'm telling you my part in it so you can get on with your part in it and tell me how much you owe me an apology. It's not about that. The 12 steps are all about my part in it and not their part in it. I can only deal with my part. And no matter what wrongs or harms we felt from others, to go back and try and get those resolved, or resolve them through a half-hearted action on our part, will not work, because we're still stuck with it. And so by this time, at step 10, we had begun to get a basis for daily living, and we keenly realised that we would need to continue taking personal inventory, and that when we were wrong, or in the wrong, we ought to admit it promptly. So step 10 is a lifetime step of what disturbs me on a daily basis. What disturbs me on a daily basis? And look to my part in it. Is it my attitude and behaviour which got me into this scrape around my behaviour? Or am I just disturbed by my surroundings and what is going on? And should I be there at all? It's like wandering into a bar by mistake and asking ourselves, what am I doing in this bar? What's my purpose? Am I defying what I know to be true, that I'm an alcoholic in recovery and a bar is not necessarily the right place for me, or places where people are drinking, or a place where things are getting out of hand? And it's not my job to fix the rest of the world. It's my job to look after my own welfare, and of course my nearest and dearest, but not to try and control the rest of the world, because I can't. In step 11, taking personal inventory, and that when we were wrong, we ought to promptly admit it promptly. So always acknowledging our part in it, even if it's just the fact that we're there in the wrong place at the wrong time. Never look to blame others, because it just won't work. It won't keep us sane, and we will get disturbed by life. That's what life does. Sometimes the disturbance is fantastic because it's a good thing, and sometimes the disturbance is all about bringing up our own past into the present moment and providing great confusion if we can keep on hanging on to it. In step 11 we saw that if a higher power had restored us to sanity and had enabled us to live with some peace of mind in a sorely troubled world, then such a higher power was worth knowing better by as direct contact as possible. The persistent use of meditation, which anybody can do, and prayer, which anybody can do. Meditation and prayer, we found, did open the channel, so that where there had been a trickle, there now was a river which led to a sure power and safe guidance from God, or good conscience, as we were increasingly better able to understand Him. Now, that brings me to self-will and universal will. What is to the good, the universe? What is my self-will? And my self-will says I want to win the lottery so that I can dispense large amounts of money to family, friends and goodness knows what. But at the same time, the most important thing to do is to live in goodwill with others and know that I'm not there to judge or to try and direct and control them. So it's handing it over to the universe of truth, love and wisdom. What is the truth of now? What is the best way forwards as a loving human being? And where am I going to get the wisdom to find out what to do next if I don't have it myself? And the answer is, good conscience says, open up and let the wisdom in. And the more I meditate and pray around those things, not trying to resolve it and say, dear God, make me a better person. It doesn't work like that. It's about, dear universe or God or good conscience, what's the best next action? And if I don't know what it is, for everyone, ask and get inclusion rather than exclusion, and find myself on my own again. Yes, and then it goes on to say, there now was a river which led to sure power and safe guidance from God. God works through people, as we were increasingly better able to understand Him. So practicing these steps, we had a spiritual awakening about which there was no question, and the spiritual awakening for me is letting the truth, love and wisdom of everything in, rather than trying to manufacture it inside me. I can be a part of, I don't know that I ever make it as such. So it's openness, willingness and honesty to live life as it is. So practicing these steps, we had a spiritual awakening about which finally there was no question. Looking at those who were only beginning and still doubted themselves, the rest of us were able to see the change setting in. And I saw it the day before yesterday in a meeting where, after 3 or 4 months of just being around and not saying much, I was seeing people make leaps and bounds forwards, and then it's about reinforcing that with good experiences of happy and sadness. No, it's good experience is not all about being happy. Good experience is about experiencing all aspects of life. From great number of such experiences, we would predict that the doubter who still claimed that he hadn't got the spiritual angle, and who still considered his well-loved AA group the higher power, would presently love God and call him by name. And, sometimes it's all about learning what God is on a daily basis. And for me it's truth, love and wisdom. And I know that the power greater than me is the rest of the world, and that I'm merely a part in it, and I'm learning every day a little bit more. So I don't know the God of your understanding, nor do I want to judge the God of your understanding. That it's what works for us all in the end is our own personal, unique, authentic take on how life is working and how we are part of it. We are not God in the world, and not God-like either. But if we behave that way, we'll end up on our own, because nobody wants to be controlled by another human being. It's about inclusion, choice, and enough control and understanding to let things happen. Anyway, for April the 12th, where am I? I want May the 12th. Here we are. The past is over, May 12th. And this is all about step 5 in May, in the Daily Reflections, this book. The past is over. AA experience has taught us we cannot live alone with our pressing problems and the character defects which cause or aggravate them. So, if I cannot live alone with fear, putting on a brave face, an ego, shutting the world out from my insides, because I'll never grow and never be a part of. If Step 4 has revealed in stark relief, that's my life story, those experiences we'd rather not remember, then the need to quit living by ourselves with those tormenting ghosts of yesterday gets more urgent than ever. We have to talk to somebody about them, and that's the whole point of Step 5. It's finding somebody who can actually be understanding, be reflective, and share their wisdom of what it meant for them. Whatever is done is over. It cannot be changed, but my attitude about it can be changed through talking with those who have gone through before, and with sponsors. I can wish the past never was, but if I change my actions in regard to what I have done, my attitude will change, so my attitude and actions will change. I won't have to wish the past away. In other words, look back, but don't stare. Look back, because it's the reference book of our lives. I can change my feelings and attitudes, but only through my actions and the help of my fellow alcoholics. And that's true, because fellow alcoholics know an awful lot about what it is to share the life story. But often, many people share their life story in Step 5 with a counsellor or a religious person according to faith, or their doctor, their psychiatrist, or they do it to both, a person in the fellowship who understands the 12-step program and what Step 4 and the life story represent, and the letting go of it in Step 5, owning what we did and learning by it, and then learning what to do about it in terms of amends and changing our attitude and behaviour on a daily basis. All well and good. Anyway, enough of me for today, May 12th. It's quite nice out there, and I'm going to the theatre tonight, which is rather nice. I'm glad I'm alive to go to the theatre and see people I know from the fellowship, and a whole audience of other people as well, who are enjoying themselves in a very civil way. A night out at the theatre. very nice, and something I would never have done in my last days of drinking, when I shut the door, closed the curtains, stopped opening the post, and the telephone had been cut off, and then I was homeless after that. Anyway, alive today, another day above ground, as some people say. The Serenity Prayer helps me at any time, in any way you can possibly imagine, around can do, can't do, and learning the wisdom of life. So the Serenity Prayer to God, good conscience, or the higher power of your understanding, for me reads as, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me is just for today, and most often in the moment of now. Don in London, hello. May 12, 2009, my videos about recovery from addiction. Recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My substance, alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be perfect. Workaholic, relationshipaholic, I suppose healthaholic, all those things. Or trying to counteract the impact of drink in my life by trying to do the right thing always. So, a perfect drinker, not so. The perfect drinker is somebody who doesn't drink, probably. That's alcohol, because it has no part in their lives. Because drink, as anything else does, of a substance nature, tends to change our mood. And if we're looking to change our mood and our feelings, rather than live in the mood we would have normally, what is that saying about us? So for 35 years I took the edge off, until alcohol took the edge off me completely, and I had no control over it. If I thought I had, with self-will, I was actually fighting myself to stop drinking, or to limit the amount I was drinking, to control it. And the absolute truth is, once we've gone past a certain line, or drawn a line in the sand and stepped over into addiction, we are probably stuck with it for the rest of our lives, and that's what I truly believe. So if I were to go back and think that I could control my drinking, what would happen? I would take the edge off, enjoy it maybe, but it wouldn't be the same, because I know the consequences, and that is abject misery. For me, I'm not speaking for anybody else, just me here, and what helps me on a daily basis is a fellowship, and I can't speak for the fellowship which helps me. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. I can only speak about my experience, strength and hope. And the reason why I say that is so important, everybody is unique, authentic, and lives their lives as they do. So being unique, authentic people, if we go to a fellowship, we still remain unique and authentic, but we have one similarity, just the one, really, to keep sober. So when we go to meetings and share our experience and our wisdom of how it is in recovery for today, we get it from everybody and anybody, and it can be coming from the person who is most likely to be less the same than us. That we can actually connect and see that our thinking and feeling processes are not too dissimilar, whilst we remain unique and authentic. So the gift is we stay unique and authentic and carry on in sobriety, hopefully, with the backing of a fellowship, which is always there on a daily basis. Well, at least I hope so, for now anyway. And there is a preamble shared at the beginning of every meeting which just gives the game away, just shows what it's all about, and it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And the gift in there is, if we're only there for one reason, which is sobriety, work out what these 12 steps of action are for individuals, and what holds the whole fellowship together, then why not? Why not indeed? So outside of AA, people belong to anything they want to, do anything they want to, and it's up to them to choose the path which suits them. So AA offers a sober way of looking at the world and our situation, not being the problem drinker we have been in the past, or substance or behaviour user, into a new way of being in a solution, which is just taking the day as it is and seeing it with less filters and less denials. And I'm so grateful, because, you know, if I'd known about the Fellowship of AA, would I have avoided it like I did for so long, when I really realised I had a problem back in the early part of this decade? And the answer is simply, I don't know. We get to where we get to, and we get to a solution if we're lucky, and keep with the solution. But we still have to live with the consequences of what we've done, and often we hark back to old times maybe, which can be quite damaging, because we wish it back the way it was, that we were able to do everything we used to, not realising that the solution means that we can do everything we can do, which is good for living, and is good for us in terms of our open, honest outlook. So those are the things which are part of my aims: open, honest and willing to face the day as it may be, and the consequences. We have to do that too. And I use on the video here daily reflections and As Bill Sees It mainly. And I just read out May 13th earlier, and suddenly realised it's only May 12th. Where did that day go? Anyway, May 12th in this daily reflections. Ooh, that's my mother. She's in Crete, so she's just sending me a message to say, are you alright? And I'll be able to say yes in a few moments. And it says here for May 12th, yeah, this book, One Step a Month, there are 12 steps of action in the action programme to change our attitudes and behaviour. Oh, excuse me. And the 5th month is about step 5, sharing our moral inventory, or what we've done with our life history to date, the good and bad of us, with another human being, and with a higher power of your choosing, not mine. So with that in mind, it's about sharing our defects of character mainly, and our resentments, and hopefully in the balance sheet there are some assets as well. AA experience has taught us we cannot live alone with our pressing problems and the character defects which cause or aggravate them. If, like in step 4, has revealed in stark relief those experiences we would rather not remember, then the need to quit living by ourselves with those hot, tormenting ghosts of yesterday gets more urgent than ever. We have to talk to somebody about them. So this is about being open and honest and willing to deal with the consequences of where we are and who we are. Whatever is done is over. It cannot be changed, but my attitude about how it can be changed through talking with those who have gone before and with sponsors. It can be changed through talking with those who have gone before and with sponsors. I can wish the past never was, but if I change my actions in regard to what I have done, my attitude will change. I won't have to wish the past away. I can change my feelings and attitudes, but only through my actions and the help of my fellow alcoholics. And you know, what is that saying? The program is spiritual, emotional, physical. It's not really an intellectual thing where you can say, intellectually I get that I need to be in recovery, and just say, right, I'll go on with the rest of my life. We need to learn how our emotions work and how we experience them on a daily basis. So this spiritual connection is always about living in the now, to the truth of what is, without denials, without filters. And that's impossible, actually. So we do our best to be truthful and open, honest and willing to change. So step 5, attitude changing, sharing the darkness that we have in our soul, if you see it that way, and then understanding that we can change how we live today to the solution of life rather than the problem of living. And in this book, As Bill Sees It, one of the pages, page 100, I'll be covering page 99 tomorrow because I've already done it in my last video by getting the date wrong. So The Forgotten Mountain. When I was a child, I acquired some traits that had a lot to do with my insatiable craving for alcohol. I was brought up in a little town in Vermont, under the shadow of Mount Aeolus. An early recollection is that looking up at this vast and mysterious mountain, wondering what it meant and whether I could ever climb that high. But I was presently distracted by my aunt as a 4th birthday present, who as a fourth birthday present made me a plate of fudge. For the next 35 years I pursued the fudge of life and quite forgot about the mountain. When self-indulgence is less than ruinous, we have a milder word for it. We call it taking our comfort. So, you know, it's like, why do we eat chocolate? Because it tastes nice and it makes us feel better. And there might be something behind that. But it's when we take our comfort and I suppose rest on our laurels and don't look at the big picture, climbing the mountain, Well, what does it mean for me? It means I've probably missed one of the views of the 7 wonders of this earth, or the ones I can see. So the gift in recovery is we start to see the truth of now, our own life and the bigger picture, and we look outwards rather than inwards. So, yeah, on a daily basis, the exhortation, prayer and meditation, so useful if we choose to use it, around serenity, for example, where God or good conscience can come into play. So the serenity prayer goes, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, that is, I cannot change beyond me, courage to change the things I can, normally my attitude and behaviour, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just on a daily basis we make progress, and it's not perfect, it's incremental in the day, making the best of what is, and letting go that which we cannot change.